New intro. So much love and appreciation to those of you who have been with me for the 2 year period plus that I've been doing this. Thank you for showing your love and support to the channel. And to anybody else who is brand new to the platform and you would like to support the channel, also you can do it by way of Patreon, Anchor, the clothing store, and also the shoe shop that is listed in the comment description below. And again, thank you to any and all of you guys who have been here to support this channel during the 2+ year period. I wouldn't be able to do what I do every single day without you.
Attorneys for Kareem Codrington filed a federal lawsuit against Louisville Metro government's former LMPD chief, Steve Conrad, and 3 officers. Codrington claims he was pumping gas in 2018 on 7th Street and Algonquin Parkway when officers drove up and blocked his car. The officers asked whether Codrington had any guns in his car. The Army veteran told officers that he did. The man says officers patted him down and refused to let him search the car.
The lawsuit claims a canine officer threw an object in the car for the dog to retrieve. Codrington was cuffed and officers found a small amount of marijuana and $50,000 in cash. He was arrested and faced a number of drug charges, including trafficking in marijuana and meth. The charges were later dismissed in Jefferson Circuit Court.
I went to Afghanistan twice to fight for these officers' freedom. And this is how they say thank you for your service. By damaging my property, planting drugs on me, and stealing my hard-earned money. It's unacceptable and it's disgraceful.
The lawsuit claims LMPD seized the $50,000 and they did not return $18,000 to Codrington. The lawsuit seeks $18,000 in damages and punitive damage.
The man has sued 3 Louisville Metro police officers and former police chief Steve Conrad, saying that he was unlawfully searched and charged with drug offenses during a traffic stop because he's black. The lawsuit filed on behalf of Kareem Codrington, a 32-year-old Army veteran from Radcliffe, also accuses police of false arrest, malicious prosecution, failure to train and intervene, and unlawful seizure of at least $18,000. The lawsuit filed on November 3rd in the U.S. District Court by attorney Sean Wimberly names officers Jay Dolick, Tyler Blissett, and John Kirk, as well as Conrad and Louisville Metro governments as defendants. According to his lawsuit, Codrington had parked his Dodge Charger at the Thornton's gas station pump at 7th Street and Algonquin Parkway about 1 a.m. August 10th of 2018. He was talking on the phone, and Dolick and Blissett then drove up and blocked the Charger. Immediately, Dolick asked if there were any weapons in the car, and Codrington replied he had a firearm. Dolick then asked Codrington to exit the vehicle, which the man did before the officers patted him down. Dolick then asked him next if he could go inside the vehicle, and Codrington refused to consent. The officer then asked Codrington for his driver's license and concealed carry permit, which Codrington showed them. A canine officer and additional officers showed up to the scene, and Codrington kept denying the request from Dolick and Blissett to search his vehicle. Dolick became disgruntled and then asked Codrington for proof of his automobile insurance, but when Codrington attempted to pull out his insurance card, Dolick refused to let him show it. He then issued an ultimatum to Codrington: either let officers search the vehicle or face a charge of failure to produce an insurance card. Codrington continued to refuse, but Kirk then initiated at least 2 false dog sniffs with his canine. One was prompted by Kirk throwing an object into Codrington's vehicle, with the dog retrieving the object. Codrington was then handcuffed, with the officer searching his vehicle and finding a small amount of marijuana and cash totaling of at least up to $50,000. He was arrested and charged with trafficking in marijuana and meth, buying and possessing drugs, tampering with physical evidence, and loitering. Wimberly, the attorney, stated that body cam footage suggests police could have planted the meth after detaining Codrington. The footage from Dolick's body camera that Wimberly shared with the media shows that the officer was reaching under the back seat of an LMPD vehicle after taking Codrington to jail and pulled out a small bag containing what appeared to be a white substance. Prosecutors moved to dismiss the charges in Jefferson Circuit Court in November of 2020. In the court, the lawsuit states that Dolick falsely asserted the reason for the traffic stop and search was due to concerns over Codrington's wellness and falsely stated that he had already called for a canine dog. Body camera footage does not reveal an audible of the canine being called. Jefferson Circuit Court Brian Edwards wrote in a court opinion that granted Cardington's request to suppress evidence collected during the stop. Dolick had also testified that the gas station was in a high crime area and that gas stations are often used as drug trafficking. That alone, along with nervousness exhibited by Cardington, is not sufficient to create reasonable articulable suspicion of criminal activity. Cardington was cooperative, did not appear to be under the influence of any intoxicants, was in possession of a valid license, and had no outstanding warrants. That's what the judge stated. Quote, also, Mr. Cardington's constitutional rights to be free from unreasonable search and seizure was violated, and the resulting seizure was fruit of a poisonous tree that must be suppressed. Once his case was dismissed, Cardington sought to retrieve the seized money from LMPD, but noticed at least $18,000 was missing. His attempt to recover that money has been denied. As for why Cardington, who served 2 tours in Afghanistan and received an honorable discharge in 2016, had a large amount of cash in his vehicle, Wimberly stated that his client was using it to secure a new home and had documentation and bank statements to back all of it up. Quote, this young man served our country. To come back home and be treated less than a human being because he's African American male, this type of behavior must be stopped. If the prosecutors had not dropped Cardington's case, he would be on his way to the penitentiary right now. Cardington, who was wearing his Army Specialist uniform and several good conduct medals, stated that he felt betrayed. Quote, words cannot express how painful it is that I went to Afghanistan twice to fight for these officers' freedoms, and this is how they say thank you for your service, by damaging my property, planting drugs on me, and stealing my hard-earned money. Cardington stated that he was pursuing a bachelor's degree at the University of Louisville at the time of the stop and later graduated. He initially planned on becoming a police officer and considered LMPD, but I could never work for a department so crooked. He has since been considering other career options. Among other requests, Cardington's lawsuit seeks $18,000 as well as punitive damages. Wimberly also noted that at least 8 other lawsuits have been filed since January of 2019, alleging LMPD and its officers have violated the rights of black drivers through unconstitutional traffic stops and searches. The suit also cites Carrier Journal reports showing LMPD has stopped and searched black drivers at a disproportionate rate, and it notes an outstanding review of LMPD that found black drivers made up 34% of traffic stops in 2019, though African Americans represent 21.2% of the city's population. The U.S. Department of Justice is investigating LMPD, including whether it discriminates against people based on race. LMPD Chief Erica Shields, who took the department's helm last year, said in September her department was working towards implementing a system that will track the race and gender of the subject of the traffic stop. And yet again, this is a further example as to why a lot of people in the black community happen to say that for anybody coming up at this moment in time or any of the younger generation, it's not worth trying to sign up or enlist. Yeah, the money might look great and different things of that nature, but this is the end result. You'll come back home just as the elders before you have and the elders before them have after fighting in a war or what have you, and you'll get disrespected by the same exact people who are in a sense supposed to show the utmost respect to you for what it is that you did. You went over, you risked your life in order to preserve, the freedoms and the different things that we have here. And to this young black man, he went over there and risked his life just to have money that he worked for, that he risked his life for, that he earned, stolen. And then for them to tell him that he can't go after that $18,000. Isn't that a little bit suspicious? Doesn't that seem to you that they might have done something with that $18,000? They didn't take the whole thing. They took 18 grand from him. They took the 18 grand because usually whenever these seizures take place, they like to share money amongst, groups. Everybody gets a little bit of, a piece of the pie. Because not only do officers, right, they get paid, quite a bit, but they also work a nice amount of overtime, which pays nice amounts of money. And they do this in order to get even more money, right? And then on top of that, the greed starts to kick in where they're like, you know what? He's probably, whatnot or whatever. I'm just going to take a little bit off the top. Nobody's going to know any different. And, we're going to call it a day. We're just going to call it square. But it's not square. It wasn't like they just took the 18K and they were like, you know what? It is what it is. We'll just let you go. No. They took the 18K. They did a false search, an unreasonable search. They brought out a K9 unit and then lied on him and stated that he was the one that called for the K9 unit. And then while he was handcuffed, proceeded to do a fake hit where the dog would be like, oh yeah, I smell something here, when realistically he didn't. And then the cops had planted drugs directly into his vehicle. It made it seem as though it was his, so then they can further make a false arresting report stating that he was in possession of marijuana and that he was selling methamphetamines and that he was, doing all of these things. And this is basically where the money came from. Trying to label all of it as drug money, and it wasn't. Not an ounce of that money was drug money. But yet, this is what police would like for people to believe whenever they're quote unquote doing their job. These are the lies that cops like to commit to when they're quote unquote doing their job. These are the same cops that the quote unquote, groups that like to support and love the cops and bootlick and belt lick. These are the types of cops that they love right here, because supposedly they're getting the crime directly off of the streets when realistically they're not. And then on top of that, the very same people who love and support the police and exactly what they did to this Army vet will be the same exact ones that will sit up there and say that, oh, I respect our men and women in the military. But like I said before, when they talk about the men and women, they're not talking about black people. Because still to this day, black people, black elders who came before all of us that fought in the previous wars, they still don't get the recognition that they deserve. They still don't have the monuments and the medals that they deserve. Some of them just recently, after years, probably about close to 90 years or so have you, they're just now getting the things that they should have gotten when they were still alive, when they could have actually enjoyed seeing that and receiving those things. Like I said, at the end of the day, black people, realistically, it ain't worth it. But I will say much love and appreciation to those of you who have served. Because you're obviously going out there and doing something that a lot of us can't do. A lot of us refuse. A lot of us won't do. And you also have to come back to a country that's ungrateful, to a government that is ungrateful, to a justice system that is ungrateful, to deal with police that are ungrateful, and then to have to deal with those true Americans who are also ungrateful as well. This is why a lot of us in the black community say that it's not worth black people risking their lives, going overseas to fight in wars that have nothing to do with us. Because all of those wars have to do with money, maybe gold, other material things. And it also has to do with oil. And it also has to do with a reason to, in a sense, invade and bring forth a democracy and, all of that great stuff, right? Like I said, much love and appreciation to this young man. And I'm very happy that he survived what took place here. Because many other times when things like this have taken place, we've seen how everything slides. We've seen lots of our black men in the community lose their lives over doing the correct things, over listening to officers, even though they'll decide to give some type of Simon Says type of questions and all these other things. Like I said, I'm happy that you're alive. I'm happy that you're well. I'm happy that you're not in a hospital, and I'm happy that you're able to continue to breathe and see the light of a new morning. So, like I said, I don't know what else to tell y'all. I don't. It's not going to get any better. Some people might say it's darkest before the dawn, but it's just always going to be dark. Because this system, the people who run it, the people who created it, they'll always pretty much be here. And if they're not here, there's going to be somebody else to take their place. So it's going to be a never-ending, vicious cycle. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about this video and everything that I stated in the comment description below. And as always, peace, love, and stay tuned for the next video.